Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear living mortal friends. I've been expecting you, and thank you for joining me on this brand new video in my channel. We are scarily excited for a spooky Halloween season. It is finally October indeed. You came to the right place for story time. I will do another reading out spooky stories for you guys. First of all, I have got Goosebumps, Attack of the Jack-o'-lantern, written by a famous writer, R.L Stine. Since I have read Goosebumps, Monster Blood for Breakfast, it seems quite spooky, terrifying, funny, enjoyable and entertaining. Let's begin the story of the Goosebumps, Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, and let's find out. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Where are you going, Elf? Dad called from a study. Don't call me Elf, Elf shouted back. My name is Drew. Dad thinks it's really cute to call me Elf, but I hate it. He calls me Elf because I'm tiny for the 12-year-old. And I have short, straight black hair and sort of a pointy chin and a pointy little nose. If you looked like an elf, would you want people call you Elf? Of course not. One day my best friend Walker Parks heard my dad call me Elf. So Walker tried it. What's up, Elf? Walker said. I stamped on Walker's foot as hard as I could, and he never called me that again. Where are you going, Drew? Dad called from the study. Out, I told him, and slammed the front door behind me. I like to keep my parents guessing. I try never to give them a straight answer. You might say I'm as a mischief as an elf, but you've said it. I stamped on your foot. I'm tough. Ask anyone. They tell you that Drew Brookman is tough. When you were the shrimpiest girl in your class, you've got to be tough. Actually, I wasn't going anywhere. I was waiting for my friends to come to my house. I walked down to the street to look out for them. I took a deep breath. The people in the corner house had a fire going in their fireplace. A white smoke floated out from their chimney. It smelled so sweaty and piney. I love autumn. It means Halloween is on the way. Halloween is my favourite holiday. I suppose I like it so much because it gives me a chance to look like someone else or something else. It's a one night of the year that I don't have to look like pointy-chinned me. But I have a problem with Halloween. 2 kids in my class are a problem. Tabitha Rice and Lee Winston. For the past 2 years, Tabby and Lee have totally ruined Halloween for Walker and me. I'm so angry about it. Walker is angry too. Our favourite holiday ruined because of 2 stuck-up kids who think they can do whatever they want. Gah! Just thinking about it makes me want to punch someone. My other friends, Shane and Sheena Martin, are upset about it too. Shane and Sheena are brother and sister, twins my age. They live in the house next door and we hang out a lot. Shane and Sheena don't look like anyone else I know. They both have a very round faces with a curly ringlets of blonde hair. They have red cheeks and cherry smiles, and they both short and quite chunky. My dad says they're roly-poly. Dad always thinks of something horrible to say about everyone. Anyway, the twins are as angry as Walker and me about Tabby and Lee. And this Halloween, we're going to do something about it. Only we don't know what we're going to do. That's why they're coming over to my house to discuss it. How did the Tabby and Lee problem start? Well, I have to go back 2 years to explain it to you. I remember it so clearly. Walker and I were 10. We're just hanging out in the front of my house. Walker had his bike on his side and was doing something to us spikes on one wheel. It was a beautiful autumn day. Down the block, someone was burning a big pile of leaves. It's against a law here in Riverdale. My dad always threatened to call the police when someone burns leaves. But I love the smell. Walker was fiddling with his bike. I was watching him. I forget what we were talking about. I glanced up, and there stood Tabby and Lee. Tabby looked as perfect as always. Little Miss Perfect. That's what Dad calls her. And, for once, he's right. The wind was blowing pretty hard, but her long, straight blonde hair stayed in place. It didn't fly out all over her head like mine did. Tabby has perfect, creamy white skin and perfectly green eyes that sparkle a lot. She's very pretty and she knows it. Sometimes it takes all my strength not to shake both hands in her hair and mess it all up. Lee is tall and good looking, with dark brown eyes and a great warm smile. Lee is African American, and he sort of struts off when he walks and acts real cool. Like a rappers on MTV videos, the girls at school all think he's terrible, but I can never understand a word he says. That's because he's always has a huge wad of green apples bubblegum in his mouth. Lee stared down at Walker's bike and mumbled something. Hey, I said, what's up, guys? Tabby made a disgusted face and pointed finger at her. Drew, you have something hanging from your nose, she said. Oh, I shot my hand up and rubbed the bottom of my nose. Nothing there. Sorry, Tabby sniggered. It only looked like you did. Tabby and Lee both laughed. Tabby is always playing mean jokes like that on me. She knows I'm self-conscious about my looks, so I always fell for her stupid tricks. Nice bike, Lee mumbled to Walker. How many speeds? It's 20 speed. 12 speed. Walker told him. Lee snurred. Mine is a 42 speed. Huh? Walker jumped to his feet. There's not such thing as 42 speed, he cried. Mine is, Lee insisted. Still snurring, it's specially made. He blew the big green bubblegum bubble. That's hard to do while you were snurring. I wanted to pop it all over his smug face, but he stepped back and popped to himself. Have you had a haircut? Tabby asked me, studying my wind-blown hair. No, I replied. I didn't think so, she said. She smoothed her perfect hair back with one hand. Gah, I can't help it. I belled my hands to my fists and let out an angry growl. I growl a lot. Sometimes I don't even know I'm doing it. Mums, Lee said. Something bubblegum juice ran down his chin. Excuse me, I asked. I'm having a Halloween party, he repeated. My heart started to pound. A real Halloween party? I demanded, with everyone in the costumes and hot apple cider and games. bobbing for apples and scary stories. Lee nodded. Yes, a real Halloween party at my house on Halloween night. You guys want to come? Sure. Walker and I replied. Big mistake. Really big mistake. The Halloween parties was already crowded with kids from school. When Walker and I showed up, Lee's parents had orange and black streamers strung up all over the living room. 3 huge jack-o'-lanterns grinned at us from the window seat by the front window. Of course, Tabby was the first person I ran into. Even in costume, she wasn't hard to recognize. She was dressed as a princess. Perfect! She wore a flowy pink princess-type gown with long, puffy sleeves and a high, lacy collar, and she had her blonde hair pinned up with sparkly rhinestone tiara in it. She smiled at her lipsticked lip at me. Is that you, Drew? She asked, pretending she didn't recognize me. What are you supposed to be? A mouse? No, I protested. I'm not a mouse. I'm a Klingon. Do you ever watch Star Trek? Tabby snaggered. Are you sure you're not a mouse? She turned and walked away. She had a pleased smile on her face. She gets such a thrill from insulting me. I growled under my breath and searched for someone else to talk to. I found Shane and Sheena in the front of the fireplace. The twins were easy to recognize. They were both big, puffy and white snowmen. Excellent costumes, I greeted them. There were 2 white snowballs, 1 snowball all over their bodies, and smaller snowballs over their heads. The snowman face had eye holes cut in them, but I couldn't tell Shane from Sheena. What is the snow made of? I asked. Polystyrene, Sheena answered. She has a high, squeaky voice, so I knew who was who. We carved them out of a big block of it. Cool, I said. Great party, huh? Shane chimed in. Everyone from her class is here. Did you see Brina Morse's costume? She sprayed her whole body with a silver spray paint. Her face and hair too. What's she supposed to be? I demanded, searching the crowded room for her. Silver server? No, I think a Statue of Liberty, Shane replied. She was wearing a plastic torch. A loud crackle in the fireplace made me jump. Most of the lights were well off, giving the room a dark, Halloween mood. The fire made long shadows dance all over the floor. I turned and saw Walker making his way towards us. His entire body was wrapped in bandages and gauze. He was the mummy. I'm in trouble, he announced. What's your problem? Shane asked. My mum did a terrible wrapping job, Walker complained. I'm coming Raphael. He struggled to retie the loose bandages around his neck. Ah! He let out an angry cry. The whole thing is coming undone. Are you wearing clothes underneath? She asked. Shane and I laughed. I pictured Walker huddled in the middle of a party in his underwear, piles of bandages at his feet. Yes, I've got my clothes on underneath the costume, Walker replied, but if these bandages all come undone. I fell on my face. Hey, what's up? Lee interrupted. He wore a Batman costume, but I recognised his dark eyes under the mask, and I recognised his voice. Awesome party, Sheena said. Yeah, awesome, I repeated. Lee started to reply, but a thunderous crash made everyone gasp. We all froze. What was that? Lee cried. Crowded room grew silent. I have another crash, bumping sound, low voices. It is coming through the basement, Lee stammered. Pulled off the Batman mask. His bushy hair fell all over his face, but I could see his frightened expression. We all turned to an open doorway at the far end of the living room. Beyond the doorway, stairs led down to Lee's basement. Oh! Lee gasped as we heard another crash, then heavy footsteps up the basement stairs. Someone is in the house, Lee shrieked in terror. Someone has broken in. Mum, Dad, Lee cried. His voice ran shrilly in a silent living room. The rest of us had all frozen in place. A shiver ran down my back as I listened to the heavy footsteps treading up the stairs. Mum, Dad, help! Lee called again, his eyes bulging with fear. No reply. He took off towards their bedroom at the back of the house. Mum, Dad? I started to run after him, but he returned to the living room a few seconds later, his whole body trembling. My parents they've gone. Call the police, someone shouted. Yes, call 911. Walker screamed. Lee hurtled to the telephone beside the couch. His foot kicked over the can of Pepsi on the rug, but he didn't notice. He grabbed the phone receiver and jammed it to his ear. I saw him push the emergency number, but then he turned to us and let a telephone fall from his hand. He's dead. The line is dead. Some kids gasped. A few cried out. I turned to Walker and opened my mouth to speak. But before I could get a sound out, two bulky figures burst out from a basement doorway. No! Lee let out the horrified howl. Tabby stepped up and huddled close behind him. Her heavily made up eyes were wide with fright. She grabbed Lee's arm. The two intruders moved quickly into the living room entrance and blocked the doorway. One of them had a blue wool ski mask pulled down over his face. The other wore the rubber gorilla mask. They both wore black leather jackets over their black jeans. Party time! The gorilla shouted in a gruff voice. He laughed, a cruel laugh. Party time, everyone! Several kids cried out. My heart started to pound in my chest. So I suddenly felt hot and cold at the same time. Who are you? Lee demanded over the frightened cries of some kids. How did you get in? Where are my parents? Parents? The guy in the ski mask replied. He had a bright blue eyes, almost as blue as a wool mask that covered his face. Do you have parents? They both laughed. Where are they? Lee cried. I think they ran away when they saw us coming. The guy said through the ski mask. Lee swallowed hard. A tiny gulping sound escaped his throat. Tabby stepped in front of him. You can't come in here, she shouted angrily to the two intruders. We having a party. The gorilla turned to his partner and laughed. They both laughed loudly, tossing back their heads. It's our party now, the gorilla announced. We taken over. Hushed gasps ran out of around the room. My legs suddenly felt rubbery and weak. I grabbed Walker's shoulder to keep from collapsing. What are you going to do? Tabby demanded. Everybody down on the floor, the guy in the ski mask ordered. You can't do this, Tabby screamed. We're just kids, someone else cried. Are you going to rob us? We don't have any money. I saw Shane and Sheena huddled together by the fireplace. Their faces were hidden by their snowman costumes, but I knew they must be Talvay too. Down on the floor, both intruders screamed. The room echoed with a heavy thud and the rustle of costumes as we all obediently dropped to the floor. You too, the gorilla screamed at the Shane and Sheena. It's impossible. How can we get down in these big snowballs? Sheena cried. Get down on the floor anyway, the gorilla ordered nastily. Get down or we'll push you down, the ski-masked man threatened. I watched Shane and Sheena struggle to lower themselves down to the floor. They had to pull their bottom snowballs to get on their knees. Sheena's snowball broke in half as she worked to pull it off. Okay, press ups, everybody, the gorilla ordered. Huh? Confused cries rose up for the room. Press ups, the gorilla repeated. You all know how to do press ups, right? How? How many do we have to do? Walker asked. He knelt close beside me, on the rug in the front of the coffee table. Do them for a couple of hours, the ski mask guy replied. Hours? Several kids cried out. A few hours of press-ups will get you all warmed up, the gorilla said. Then we'll think of something harder for you to do. Yeah, much harder, his partner added. Then they both burst out laughing again. You can't do this, I screamed. My face came out and high and tiny, like a mouse voice. Those other kids protested too. I turned to the door. The guy in the ski mask had moved into the living room, but the gorilla was still blocking any escape. Get started, the gorilla ordered, or we'll make it 3 hours, his partner added. I held a lot of groans and complaints, but we all dropped onto our stomachs and started doing press-ups. What choice did we have? We can't do this for 2 hours, Walker protested breathlessly. We'll faint. He raced and dropped. Close beside me on the floor, his mummy costume was unraveling with each move he made. Faster, the gorilla ordered. Come on, speed it up. I had done only 4 or 5 press-ups and my arms already started to ache. I don't have much exercise except for bike riding, swimming in the summer. There was no way I'd last for more than 10 or 15 minutes. I raised my eyes to the front of the room, and I saw a sight that made me cry out in shock. Walker, look, I whispered. Huh? He groaned. I poked Walker in the side. He lost his balance and hit the floor. Hey, Drew, what's your problem? He groaned. We both turned our eyes to the doorway and saw to our surprise that Tabby and Lee went down on the floor with the rest of us. They had joined the 2 intruders in front of the doorway. They had both had wide, gleeful grins on their faces. I stopped the press-ups and raised myself to my knees. I saw Lee and start to laugh. Tabby joined him. She laughed so hard. Her Tyria shock. They slapped each other's a high five all around me on the floor. Some kids were still working away, pushing themselves up, then down, up, then down, growling and grunting as they obediently did their press-ups. But Walker and I had stopped. We were both on our knees, watching Tabby and Lee. The two creeps were laughing and celebrating. I was about to cry out in anger when the two intruders tugged off their masks. I instantly recognised the boy with the gorilla mask. It was Todd Jeffrey, a high school kid who lives next door to Lee. I knew the ski mask kid too. His name was Joe something or other. He is a friend of Todd's. Todd brushed his coppery hair back off his forehead. Lee, his hair was wet. His face was red, and he was sweating. It was hot inside the rubber mask. Joe tossed his ski mask to the floor. He shook his head, laughing at us. All the joke, guys? He called out, "Happy Halloween!" All the other kids had stopped the press-ups, but no one had moved from the floor. I think we were too shocked to stand up. "Just a potty joke," Lee chimed in, grinning. "Did we scare you?" Tabby asked coyly. "Grr." I let out the loudest growl I've ever growled. I wanted to leap up, grab a tiara off the Princess Tabby's head, wrapped it around her neck. Todd and Joe slapped each other a high five. They picked up the cans of Pepsi and tiled them up all over their mouths. "You can get up now," Lee announced, snuggling. "Well, you guys look so scared," Tabby cried gleefully. "I think we had really fooled you." "I don't believe this," Walker muttered, shaking his head. The wrapping had fallen from his face. Bandages dripped loosely all over his shoulders. I really don't believe this. What a mean, rotten joke." I climbed up shakingly. I helped Walker to his feet. I heard Shane and Sheena grumbling behind us. Their costumes were totally wrecked. Kids were grumbling and complaining. Tabby and Lee were the only ones laughing. No one else thought the joke was the least bit funny. I started across the room to tell the two creeps what I thought of their stupid joke. But Lee's parents burst into the room, pulling off their coats. We went next door to the Jeffreys," Lee's mum announced. Then she saw Todd. "Oh, hi, Todd. We were just at your house, visiting your parents. What are you doing over there?" "Helping Lee out with a party." "Kind of," Todd replied, grinning. "How's the party going?" Lee's dad asked. "Great," Lee told him. "Just great, Dad." And that's how Tabby and Lee ruined a Halloween party 2 years ago. Walker and I and Shane and Sheena too. We were all really upset. No, we were more than upset. We were furious. Halloween is our favourite holiday, and we don't like to see it ruined because of a nasty practical joke. So last year we decided to get even. "We need special decorations," Sheena said. "Not the same old pumpkins and skeletons." "Yeah, something scarier," Shane chimed in. "I think jack-o'-lanterns can be really scary," I insisted, "especially when you put candles in them and the dark faces light up with those jagged, evil grins. Jack-o'-lanterns are babyish, Walker argued. No one is afraid of a jack-o'-lantern. Shana is right. If we're going to scare Tabby and Lee, we need something better. It was a week before Halloween. The four of us were hard at work at my house. We were working on my Halloween party. Yes, last year. The party was at my house. Why didn't I decide to have a party for only one reason? For revenge? For revenge on Tabby and Lee. Walker, Shane and Sheena and I had spent a whole year talking about it. Dreaming up plans. Dreaming up the most frightening scares we could imagine. We didn't want to pull a nasty joke like having people break into a house. That was too nasty and too frightening. Some of my friends still have bad dreams about guys in ski masks and gorilla masks. The four of us didn't want to terrify or four guesses. We just wanted to embarrass Tabby and Lee and scare them out of their skins. Now, a week before the big night, we were sitting around my living room after dinner. We should have been doing homework, but Halloween was too near. We had no time for homework. We had to spend all of our time making our evil plans. Shane and Sheena had a lot of really frightening ideas. They both looked so sweet and innocent, but once you get to know them, they are pretty weird. Walker and I wanted to keep our scares simple, for simpler and for scarier. That's what we thought. I wanted to drop the fake cobwebs over Tabby and Lee from a stairway. I knew the shop that sells really sticky, scratchy cobwebs. Walker has a tarantula that keeps in a glass cage in his room. A live tarantula. He thought maybe we could tangle the tarantula in the cobwebs, then dropped it in Tabby's hair. Not a bad idea. Walker also wanted to cut the trapdoor in the living room floor. When Tabby and Lee stepped on the spot, we had opened the trapdoor and they would disappear into a basement. I had to reject that idea. I like it, but I wasn't sure how Mum and Dad would react when they discovered us sawing up the floor. Also, I just wanted to terrify the two creeps. I didn't want to break their necks. Where are we going to put the fake blood puddles? Shane asked. He held a red plastic puddle of blood in each hand. He and his sister had bought a dozen fake blood puddles at a joke shop. They came in different sizes and looked very real. And don't forget a green slime. Sheena reminded us she had a free plastic bag of slime beside her. Walker and I opened one of the bags and felt slimy, sticky and oozing gunk. Why did you buy this? I asked. At the same shop? No. It came out of Sheena's nose. Shane joked. With an angry cry, Sheena hoisted up one of her bags. She swung it in the front of her, threatening to smack her brother with it. He laughed and bounced off the couch. Whoa, careful, I cried. If that bag breaks, maybe we can hand the slime from the ceiling, Walker suggested. Yeah, cool, Shane cried excitedly, and it could drip down on to Tabby and Lee. Maybe we could ever cover them in it, Walker added excitedly, and they looked like two sticky green blobs. Glob, glob, glob. Sheena thrushed out her arms and pretended she was drowning under the puddle of slime. When it stick to the ceiling? I asked. How we keep it up there for long enough? How will we get two of them to stand under it? I'm a practical one in the group. They have a lot of wild ideas, but they never knew how to make them work. That's my job. I'm not sure, Walker replied. He jumped up from his chair. I'm going to get something to drink. What if the slime started to spill up of the jack-o'-lanterns? Shane suggested. That would be quite scary, wouldn't it? What if we had fake blood gush out of a jack-o'-lantern? Sheena said. That would be even scarier. We have to trap Tabby and Lee somehow, Shane suggested, thinking hard. All this slime and cobwebs and blood is good, but we have to make them think they are really in danger. We have to make them think that something terrible is really going to happen to them. I started to agree, but the lights went out. Oh! I uttered a cry of surprise, blinking in the sudden darkness. What happened? Shane and Sheena didn't reply. The curtains were drawn, so no light entered the living room from outside. The room was so dark, I couldn't see my two friends sitting right opposite me. And then I heard a cry. A whispered voice, a frightening whisper so close to my ear. Come with me. Come with me now. Come home to where you belong. Come home to the grave. Staring into the darkness, the whispered words sent a shiver down my back. Come with me. Come with me now. Come home to where you belong. Come to your grave, Tabby and Lee. I have come for you and you alone. Come, Tabby and Lee. Come with me now. That's excellent, I cried. The lights flashed back on. Opposite me, Shane and Sheena clapped and cheered. Good work, Walker. I turned to congratulate him. He set his portable tape player on the coffee table in the front of us, and we wound the tape. I think it will scare them, he said. It scared me, I told him, and I knew what it was. When the lights goes out and that voice starts to whisper, it will creep everyone out, Sheena exclaimed, especially with a tape player right under the couch. Who recorded the voice? Shane asked. Walker, did you do it? Walker nodded. Cool, Shane said. He turned to me. But, Drew, I think you should let Sheena and me do some other scares on Tabby and Lee. Let's save those for when we really need them, I replied. I bent down and opened one of the plastic bags. I dug the hand in and pulled out a big chunk of green slime. I felt cold and gooey in my hand. I worked it around in my palm, squeezing it and shaping it. Then I rolled it into the ball. Think it's sticky enough to hang from a ceiling? I asked. It would be nice effect to have it running down the walls, I think. No, I've got a better idea, Walker interrupted. The lights all go out, right? And the creepy voice started to whisper. And when it whispers their names, when it whispers, come to your grave, Tabby and Lee, then someone sneaks up behind each of them and drops a huge glob of slime on their heads. That's cool, Shane declared. We all laughed and cheered. We had some good ideas, but we needed more. I didn't want to slip it. I didn't want Tabby and Lee to think it was funny or a big joke. I wanted them to be scared, with a capital scared. So we thought of more scary ideas and more ideas. We worked all week, from after school until late at night, setting traps, hiding little creepy surprises all over the living room. We carved the ugliest jack-o'-lanterns you've ever seen, and we filled them with a real-looking plastic cockroaches. We made an 8-foot tall papier match monster, and we wiggled it to fall out of a whole cupboard. When we pulled the string, we bought real-looking rubber snakes and worms and spiders and hid them all around the house. We didn't eat or sleep. We dragged ourselves through school, thinking only about more ways to terrify our two special guests. Finally, Halloween arrived. The four of us gathered at my house. We were too tense to sit still or even stand still. We moved around the house, barely speaking to each other, and we carefully checked all of the frightening traps and tricks we had prepared. I have never worked so hard in all my life, never. I spent so much time getting ready for the party and our revenge that I didn't even think of my Halloween costume until a very last minute. And so I ended up wearing the same Klingon costume I had worn of the year before. Walker was a pirate that year. He had a patch all over one eye and wore a striped shirt and a parrot on one shoulder. Shane and Sheena had dressed up as some kind of blobby creatures. I couldn't really tell what they were supposed to be. We didn't care about our costumes. We only cared about scaring Tabby and Lee. And then, as we paced a living room nervously, 1 hour before the party was to start, the phone rang, and we received a call that filled us with horror. I was standing right to no telephone when it rang. The harsh buzz nearly made me jump out of my skin. Was it a little tense? Yes. I grabbed the phone in the middle of the first ring. Hello. I heard a familiar voice on the other end. Hi, Drew, it's Tabby. Tabby, I cried. I decided she was calling to find out what time the party started. The party starts at 8. I said, but if you and Lee, that's why I'm calling. Tabby interrupted. Lee and I can't come tonight. Huh? The phone dropped out of my hand. It clattered to the floor. I dived to pick up the receiver, stumbled, and nearly knocked out the whole table over. What did you say? I demanded. Lee and I can't come, Tabby repeated the chilling words. We are going to Lee's cousins instead. His cousins gets to trick-or-treat until midnight. He does 4 different neighbourhoods. He promised we'll get the bag of sweets. Sorry, but Tabby. I started to protest weakly. Sorry, she said. See you, bye. She hung up. I let out the hose. Well, and and sank to my knees on the floor. "What's wrong?" Walker demanded. They couldn't get the words out. My three friends huddled around me. Walker tried to pull me to the feet, but my head was spinning. I didn't want to stand up. "They're not coming." I finally managed to choke out, "Not coming." "Oh, Walker," we pleaded softly. Shane and Sheena shook their heads glumly, but didn't say the word. We all stayed frozen in place, stunned, too miserable to talk, thinking about all of the work, all of the planning, and all of the hard work, a whole year of planning and work. "I'm not going to cry," I told myself. I feel like crying, but I'm not going to. I climbed shakily to my feet. I glanced at the couch. "What's that?" I shrieked. Everyone turned and saw what I saw, a huge, ugly hole in one of the brown leather couch cushions. "Oh, no," Sheena wailed. "I was playing with a ball of green slime. I must have dropped it to the couch when I stood up. It burned a hole in the cushion. Quick, cover it up before Mum and Dad see it," I started. Of course, Mum and Dad come strolling into the living room. "How's it going?" Dad asks. "All ready for your guests?" I crossed my fingers and prayed they wouldn't see the huge hole in the couch. Good heavens! What happened to the couch? Mum shrieked. I took Mum and Dad a long time to get over the ruined couch, and it took me even longer to get over the ruined party. That's how it went last Halloween. 2 years. 2 years of ruined Halloweens. Now it's a year later. Halloween time again this year. We have twice as much reason to get revenge on Tabby and Lee. If only we had a plan. This year, I'm a space princess, Tabby announced. She had her blonde hair piled high once again, with a same rhinestone terrier in it, and she wore a same long lacy dress. Same costume as 2 years ago, but to add the outer space look, Tabby had painted her face bright green. She always has to be a princess, I thought bitterly. Green or not green, she's still the princess. Lee showed up in a cape and tights and said he was Superman. He said it was his little brother's costume. He told us why he didn't have time to get a costume of his own, but I couldn't understand him because of a big wad of bubble gum in his mouth. Walker and I had decided to be ghosts. We cut eye holes in the bed sheets and arms holes, and that was that. My sheet dragged behind me on the grass. I should have cut it shorter, but it was too late. We were already on her way to trick or treat. We were Shane and Sheena, Lee asked. We catch up with them, I replied. I raised my trick or treat bag in the front of me. Let's get going. The four of us stepped out into the clear, cold night. A pale half moon floated low all over the houses. The grass shone grey under a light blanket of frost. We stopped at the bottom of my driveway. An estate car rumbled by. I saw two big dogs peering out of a back window. The driver slowed to stare at us as she passed by. Where shall we start? Tabby asked. Lee mumbled something I didn't understand. I want to trick or treat all night. Walker exclaimed, "This may be our last trick or treat night ever." "Excuse me, what do you mean?" Tabby demanded, turning her green face to him. "Next year we'll be teenagers," Walker explained. "We will be too old to trick or treat." Quite a sad thought. I tried to take the deep breath of cool air, but I had forgotten to cut the nose or mouth in the sheet. We hadn't even left my front garden, and I was already starting to feel hot. Let's start at the Willows," I suggested. The Willows is a neighbourhood of small houses. It started on the other side of a small wood, just 2 blocks away. "Why the Willows?" Tabby demanded, fiddling with a tiara. "Because the houses were very close together," I told her. "We won't have to walk much, and we'll get a lot of sweets. No long driveways to walk up and down." "Sounds good," Lee agreed. We started walking along the curb. Across the street, I saw 2 monsters and a skeleton making their way across the front garden. Little kids followed by the father. The wind fluttered my costumes as we walked. My shoes were crunched all over the frost-covered dead leaves. The sky seemed to grow darker as we made our way past the bare, black trees of the woods. A few minutes later, we reached the first block of the Willows. Streetlights cast a warm yellow glow over the neighbourhood. Lots of houses were decorated with orange and green lights, cutouts of witches and goblins, and flickering jack-o'-lanterns. The 4 of us began walking from house to house, gleefully yelling "trick or treat" and collecting all kinds of sweets. People howled and heard at over Tabby's princess costume. She was the really one in our group who had bothered to put on the decent costume, so I suppose she stood out. We passed by a lot of other kids as we made our way down the block. Most of them appeared younger than us. One kid was dressed as a milk carton. He even had all the nutritional information printed on the one side. It took us about half an hour to do both sides of the street. The Willows ended in the cul-de-sac, kind of a dead end. "Where to next?" Tabby asked. "Why, wait, one more house," Walker said. He pointed to a small brick house set back in the trees. "I didn't see that one," I said, "I suppose because it's the only house that isn't right on the street. The lights are on, and they have got the pumpkin in the window," Walker announced. "Let's check it out." We trooped up to the front doorstep and pushed the doorbell. The front door swung open instantly. The small, white-haired woman poked out her head. She squinted through the thick glasses at us. "Trick or treat," Furthers chanted. "Oh my goodness," she explained. She pressed wrinkled hands against her cheeks. "What wonderful costumes!" "Huh? Wonderful costumes," I thought. 2 bed sheets and a borrowed Superman suit from last year. The old woman turned back into the house. "Forrest, come and see this," she called. "You've got to see these costumes. I had a man craft from somewhere deep inside the house." "Come in, please come in," the old woman pleaded. I want my husband to see you. She stepped into the step back to make room for us to enter. The four of us hesitated. Come in, she insisted. Forrest has to see your costume, but it's hard for him to get up. Please. Tabby led the way into the house. We stepped into the tiny, dimly light living room. The fire blast in a small brick fireplace against one wall. The room felt like a blast furnace. It had to be a 500 degrees in there. The woman shut the front door behind us. Forrest, Forrest, she called. She turned to smile and to us and smile. He's in the back room. Follow me. She opened the door and let us enter. To my surprise, the back room was enormous and jammed with kids in costumes. Whoa! I cried out, startled, but else quickly swept the room. Most of the kids had taken off their masks. Some of them were crying. Some were red-faced and angry. Several kids sat cross-legged on the floor. Their expressions glum. What's going on? Tabby demanded shrilly. Her eyes boggled wide with fear. What are they all doing here? He asked, swallowing hard. A red-faced little man with a shaggy white hair came hobbling out from a corner, leaning on a white cane. I like your costumes, he said, grinning at us. We have to go now, Tabby stammered. We all turned to the door. The old woman had shut it behind her. I glanced back at the kids in costumes. There were at least 2 dozens of them. They all looked so frightened and unhappy. We've got to go, Tabby repeated shrilly. Yeah, let us out of here, they insisted. The old man smiled. The woman stepped up behind him. You have to stay, she said. We like looking at your costumes. You can't go, the man added, leaning heavily on his cane. We have to look at your costumes. Huh? What are you saying? How long are you going to keep us here? The Tabby cried. Forever, the old couple replied in unison. That was my daydream. I was down by the street in front of my house, waiting for my friends to show up, and daydreaming about Tabby and Lee being trapped by the weird old couple who liked to collect trick-or-treaters and keep them forever. Of course, in my daydream, Walker and I sneaked out the side door, but Tabby and Lee were caught before they could escape, and they were never seen again. Nice daydream, huh? I was still picturing the whole thing when Walker and Shana finally arrived, and we eagerly trooped inside and up to my room. Drew, where are you grinning like that? Sheena demanded, dropping down onto the edge of my bed. I was just having a funny daydream. I told her about Tabby and Lee. Okay, so I'm going to stop on page 40. So I hope you found this story about Goosebumps attack of jack-o'-lantern. It seems quite more interesting. It gives you more attention to the reading experience. I think you find it more terrifying and creepy and obviously funny. Okay guys, so I'm going to stop there. I hope you'll see you for a short while.